Hi there, I thought I'd take some time to bring you up to speed on how I'm getting on my kit car rebuild. It's nearing its end of its major refurbishment. For those of you who don't know, I have a low-cost kit car. A low-cost kit car is one that's instead of being a traditional kit bought from a manufacturer like Tiger or Caterham or Westfield, it's one where you build as much of your own kit as you can, be it chassis, wishbones, wiring loom, body panels, as much as you feel capable of doing. So it takes normally a little bit longer. So my kit car I built myself between 2004 and 2008. Most of the time I've been a member of the Southern Kit Car Club, which has enabled me to use the car both around all over the country for regular road trips, as well as going out on a Sunday breakfast run, the odd kit car show or track days, and then going across to Europe a few times as well. I'm returning in 2018. I realised my car really did need a major overhaul, so I took the opportunity of taking the car completely apart. Up to that point, I've actually been running a 2 litre Pinto engine in the car, as well as the strip down of the car. Basically took everything off completely, cleaned all the chassis, jet washed it all down, and basically took the rather brave decision to cut the front of the car off because there was some areas that I wasn't quite happy with, a bit of deterioration in the chassis and a little bit of a corrosion. And it gave me the opportunity to remake the front of the chassis as I had done a number of years before. I'd already decided that I was actually going to go for an ST 170 engine. This would ideally mate up with the full Type 9 gearbox I had already, so it meant I didn't have to worry about widening the tunnel or moving the prop shaft or even changing the gearbox. It would just go straight onto the original gearbox, so it's nice and easy, and hopefully try and speed up the build. Obviously, once I'd got the engine and gearbox mated together and on the new chassis, put back into the hole where it belongs, I was able to fabricate engine mounts and then basically reuse the existing suspension pickup points, mountings, shock absorbers, battery tray, steering rack and bits and pieces that I cleaned up from the previous build. I also decided to remake the lower wishbones as well, which I've done quite a lot of welding in the past, obviously with the original car and other things, so that wasn't too much of a trauma. I made a suitable jig, as well as using some of the other stuff that I had to remanufacture. The intention was always to sort of do a virtually a full build of the car to get it back up and running to how it would be, so I knew that all the new stuff would actually fit pretty well. As part of the rebuild after getting the chassis done, I also took all the body panels back to basics. All the fiberglass stuff got stripped off, as well as some of the aluminium panels. Stripping the fiberglass off revealed quite a lot of damage that needed to be repaired and sorted out. There was some damage around the nose cone that needed quite a lot of work, so I realised it would be quite a big job to tackle it all. I also decided that once I got the chassis built, I was going to have a go at making my own aluminium panels. These are ones that go from the rear arch, normally right to the front of the car. Instead of just making them in single pieces like they were originally, I decided to make it into 3 sections. So mine included an area basically from the rear arch through to the driver's sort of ankle area, then another flared arch as is the modern design on some cars. In front of that, we've finally positioned a piece right at the beginning, right at the front of the car, which is actually goes around the suspension pickup point. So now I'm able to just, if I wanted to remove or play around or adjust the suspension bits on its own rather than taking anything else off of the car. So it's greatly improved the access to get to some of the stuff now. Once I'd actually had all the aluminium panels fitted to the car, I then made the rather brave decision I wanted to actually go for a full roll cage. I originally had a rear cage with rear braces on there, so rather than send the whole chassis away for a roll cage to be fitted, I bought sections of steel and joined them all together after doing a mock-up. I put sections of metal inside the actual tubing to sleeve the joints that I was creating, as well as plug welding all the sections together, and that eventually got sprayed up. Whilst doing that, I also thought about how I was going to get rid of all the other pieces of paint and all the little nooks and crannies on the chassis that I couldn't get to. So I decided I'd already got my old media cabinet back up and working by fitting additional pickup for the media, as well as went out and bought a bigger compressor because I knew I would need that. And I then used that idea to actually come up with a lost sand or lost media shot blasting idea to shot blast or sand blast the bits of the chassis I couldn't get to. That then moved me on to actually decide to build my own DIY spray booth out of basically bits of Dexin or handy angles, it used to be called, sheeted in plastic with a couple of fans to suck air through, and then also a ventilation tube the other end to allow air to come through the actual spray booth. It gave me the opportunity to teach myself how to spray. I've never ever sprayed with a proper spray gun. I've only ever used sort of aerosol cans before. So I basically decided to use a epoxy paint that we used to use, brush paint onto the components. I actually ended up spraying it onto the chassis and eventually onto the roll cage as well. And that, with confidence built up from there, I then decided to flat down and prepare all the aluminium panels and the fiberglass stuff, the ones that I've made as well. So I bought a couple more guns to make sure it wasn't going to contaminate the various paint that I was using, and then ended up priming up all the panels, flatten them all down, get them all nice and flat, get rid of the orange peel, putting a top coat on them, or base coat as it's now known, and the lacquer with suitable times between them all to let them dry and then polish them all up. So I did a go at flattening and polishing as well. Most of the information I've actually picked up from watching various videos on YouTube to teach myself how to do various things, which have been quite enjoyable, and it's been nice to learn new skills. By this time the chassis had been moved around into the other area of my my double garage that I'm lucky enough to have, and I was already fitting various components that I could do whilst I was still doing some work on the body panels to get the engine to run in, get all the electrics all working, get the prop shaft in, the axle in, the fuel tank in, which had been modified to allow it to run an injection system as well. That's one of the other things I did as part of the build. Then when all the panels were ready, they started to get fitted to the chassis. They'd always been fitted quite a few times as well, and I come up with a few other little changes to the car, like taking the windscreen off and fitting an aero, as well as getting rid of the heat and obviously the window wiper system. But I have left enough room within the roll cage if I want to. I can refit my windscreen if that's what I decide to do. Also fitted bigger stone guards to the rear arches. I put some protective film over the side panels. Also had to get a couple of mates around during the actual spraying process to help me flip the chassis around every sort of couple of weeks whilst I was preparing the spray in the other areas. They come around and spin it around over a nice hot cup of tea, which went quite well. I also took the opportunity to have a go at repairing the Cobra seat. These are notoriously unfortunate enough to suffer back-breaking issues on the seat after being used. When they're not used against a bulkhead, there's quite a lot of strain goes on the back of the seat as you're getting in and out of a car. So I managed to take the actual covering off, realised that there was an inherent weakness, and then repair it and get it back together again. So it saved me a few £100 in repairing the driver's seat that way as well. One other thing that I was going to tackle myself was the refurbishment of the actual wheels. These were been on the car since day one. I've always taken pride in the fact that I try not to mark up the wheels. I try to take a second bike at turning around rather than bounce up and down curbs. But unfortunately I have suffered some damage from a little bit of catching some curves at certain times, and also more damage from actually tyre fitters changing tyres. Have done more damage to the wheels than I have driving them, but they've now been professionally refurbished and look stunning again. The car presently is running on an ME Motorsports 221 ECU. This is specifically designed for the ST170 because it has the proper wiring and understanding to run the variable valve timing on this particular engine. Rather than just being a switch on and off, it's actually designed to run exactly the same way as it used to run in the original Ford wiring loop. Hopefully the pictures you've seen will give you a good understanding of what I've undertaken over the last 2.5 years. I have really enjoyed the actual build, although it's been quite frustrating not being back on the road again in my own car. I have had the opportunity to go out with some of the friends that I've met through the Southern Kit Car Club, as well as going on the 2019 road trip that we did in my friend's Robin Hood kit car, which is really, really good. And hopefully in the next video I'll be officially unveiling the nearly finished car.